Holy shit. Did you guys have a good Easter? Yeah. I mean, did you folks have a good Easter? Holy cow. Dev. Gender shaming. I'm offended at myself. All right, so where are we at here? We're sitting on a stage being asked questions, which as a 15-year-old is a profound conundrum, but as a 46-year-old, fuck it. So, ask Devin a question, it says in bold font. And someone says, in Singularity, it's a song off Empath, is the drone that comes to, does that say Ford or Fine? Fine? In Singularity, Ford wouldn't have made sense. So, in Singularity is the drone that comes to find you when you are lost, good or evil. Oh, interesting. My husband says evil, I say good. What do you think about that? We're talking about the beginning of the song, right? Let me think. Singularity as a song is meant to represent uncertainty, so I think it's probably neither. I think it's supposed to represent a shadow, in a sense, which is why it just kind of sustains over all those intro parts. I don't think that anything on the record is supposed to be fundamentally good or evil. It's supposed to represent, if anything, the fact that both of those things are like a construct and more due to perception rather than anything overt. So what would I say it's good or evil? For me, it's good. Definitely good. Yeah. You know, like ice cream. What came first, lyrics or music? Okay, so the way that I tend to write is in one of three ways. Either I have the guitar in my hand and I just improvise while I'm doing other things, watching TV or talking to people or what have you, and I wait for notes to spur my interest, like when I was doing that little thing that started on the 5th fret, and then I heard that one note that was cool. That would be an example of how a note or a piece of music spurs interest to me. And then once you've found, I like to think of it as like a path of least resistance. Once you've found a musical theme or aesthetic that appeals to you at that moment, it's about finding and happening onto other things that just seriously don't irritate you. And lyrics for me tend to either happen in conjunction with the notes rhythmically, or I think the most practical and the most common way that I track and figure out lyrics is I will record a demo and I'll take a microphone and I'll do one take of my voice singing over it. And it's not even words, it's literally mumbles. I'll just like, I should get my phone and show you. No, I'll get that, I'll show you in a second. And then at that point, I will listen back to that. I'll only give myself one take. I'll listen back to that because it's usually based on an impulse, which is in reaction to something that's fresh. And then I will have either notepad open or a piece of paper, and I'll write down what I think I said. And then, honestly, and a lot of times it ends up being these sort of fractured sentences, at which point you can say, okay, well, this could potentially be this. And I find a lot of the way that the syntax works for me is that certain consonants or vowels seem appropriate to sing. Like I'll be like, and then I'll write down, sandwiches are super fancy. Right? And I'll take away from that. Clearly, I don't want the song to be about fancy sandwiches. Why not? But I do take away from that S in super is rewarding to sing. It's something that I feel I can really dig into, and so I'll change it maybe to sometimes things are super funky or whatever, and then you just keep refining it, and by the end of it, you just find a common thread throughout it that works with the music, and then hopefully symbiotically it becomes something that your subconscious drives you towards. So that's my process. Yay for that process. All right. Requiem is an instrumental, but the choir is also singing. Apart from the DTP line, what are the other lyrics sung by the choir? Oh, fuck, I have no idea. So that is Requiem. How's that go? It's one that's like, oh, God, Mr. Joe. I don't know. Rise to your morning. Rise to your morning. M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. Rise, 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 rise. Then all we're offering is a chance to be loved. I think that Requiem is meant to be an ode to the DTP because that band was something that was close to my heart. 8 years we worked together. All of them are very close friends of mine, and it was very difficult to let that go. But I knew that if I was to follow where my creative compulsions were leading me in a way that would be something that would be artistically and emotionally accurate, and not something that I'm doing for the sake of money or whatever, that I had to follow that. And there's certain parameters with a rock band that are just unavoidable. You can't move past those things. And my idea is moving forward, empath being almost like a reflection of the past, but what I'm doing moving forward requires a whole different thing. And so Requiem acted basically like well, there was the end of DTP, and it was a very sad thing for all of us. So the lyrics are probably sing about that. So I'm actually sure they do. All right. So I saw on Instagram that you were in Malta. Why did you visit Malta? Did you ever plan on going again? So I went to India, and that was super fucking intense. And then I finished Empath, and that was super fucking intense. And I knew I'm going to be away from home for the next several months, which is super fucking intense. So I had my family come out, and we went on a cruise. But after this series of intense circumstances, I found that I couldn't abandon the chaos that was internal. I found that whole experience to be very trying, because you're trying to be emotionally present to the people who you are most warranting that. Yet, as a result of doing this job, anybody who does anything publicly, there is a defense mechanism that is a result of just trying to keep yourself protected from the energy that is. A lot of people, specifically if you're highly sensitive, it's very easy to absorb people's energy. If someone has something very emotional to tell you about their connection to the music, or something about their family or mental health or something, in order to be present for that, yet not let it be vampiric to your own energy specifically, if you've got a high level of empathy, you've got to sort of, it's like a fine line between being present and being protected. But that shield, if you want to look at it that way, is something that takes a long time to go away when you come back off tour. So the people that are most deserving of your emotional openness are often the ones that suffer, because when you come home, you're just not there. And so all of a sudden I went to Malta with the family, and then they're like, oh man, it's all the pretty stuff. And I'm just like, yep, pretty, really pretty. Love it. Is that limestone? I think that's great. We should look it up. But I think it was really interesting and really chill, because a lot of the places that you go, if you get into a cab, cabs are always the worst. There's always these fucking dudes that are just like, such horrible human people. Like a lot of times, I had some really bad, traumatizing experiences in a cab. But in Malta, they were very kind. So there's that. Wow, Dev, way to wrap that one up. Okay, so, yes, Paul. It's interval time? Fuck yeah. Hey, you guys want to have a drink and go pee?
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you in 25 minutes, okay? Bye.
Okay. Woo!